welcome to my channel. So today, as you might have guessed by the title, we are going to be kind of going through the books that I've read in the month of January 2018. I will give you a little summary of the books and just tell you my overall thoughts and opinions of them. My cat is right there. She's just staring at me. Come and say hi to the camera, Muffin. Yeah, man. Where's the camera? Where's the camera? Starting off the new year, I decided I would try and read as many books as I could. So I was kind of going for like 52 books in 52 weeks challenge, but I hopefully will get a bit more done than that. But starting off the year, I read The Colour of Magic, and that is by Terry Pratchett. So it is the first in the series, the Discworld series that Terry Pratchett does. I think there's about 41 different books in that series. So yes, there's 41 books in this series altogether, and it's set in this world that there is a giant turtle that floats through space, bear with me. On top of that there's 4 elephants, and on top of that the world is a flat disc, and that's where it sits on top of the world, and it's basically this world is flying through the universe on top of this magical turtle. The book follows a failed wizard, and his name is Rincewind. And basically it follows him on his journey. He is a character that is always in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he just has a lot of bad luck. Basically it follows him and another character called Twoflower. Now Twoflower is a tourist from another part of the world, and Rincewind becomes a bit of a guide to him. Now Twoflower reminds me a little bit of Mr. Weasley in the Harry Potter when he's really interested in like muggle things, because Twoflower takes pictures of everything, wants to take photos and speak to everyone. He's really interested in the part of the world. So basically Rincewind has to like drag him along, but after a series of unfortunate events they have to flee the city, and it's following the 2 characters as they try and stay safe and stay protected. And another character you're introduced to who I totally fell in love with is Death. Now that's a weird thing to say, I'm not gonna lie. Death is a character who speaks in all capital letters, no speech marks, just capitals. You know it's Death. He's funny, he's quirky. There was one point I was actually crying of laughter over something that he said. Oh, he's a brilliant character. I really do want to read more in this series. I'm not sure if I'll read all of the 40 plus that there are, but I'm gonna give it a good go. Overall, I'd probably give this about a 4 out of 5. I did really enjoy it. I loved the world. I really want to read more about it, and hopefully I will. So, the second book, I actually have a copy of it with me today, and that is Now We Are Dead by Stuart Macbride. So, Stuart Macbride is an Aberdonian author. He writes his novels set in Aberdeen, or most of the time in the surrounding area, which is fantastic for me because that's where I've been brought up, born and raised, and where I currently live. So it's really interesting to read a book and see landscapes in it that you walk past every day on your way to work. It's really funny because it's usually Aberdeen doesn't get mentioned in books. If it's in Scotland, it's Glasgow, it's Edinburgh, so it is quite fun to see like Union Street mentioned, like our main high street, or even the fact that the possible rapist in the book is living like 2 minutes around the corner from me, which is actually quite terrifying, and I've avoided walking that way ever since. Really irrational because it's fictional, but it freaked me out so much. Basically Stuart Macbride has a series of books, and they follow one of the police officers who is Logan, and I love Logan McRae, he's like my favourite. But this book is actually a couple books later in the series, and it follows Detective Steele, Roberta Steele. And I didn't realise when I borrowed this from my brother that I hadn't actually read the 2 books in between. I totally understood everything that was going on in this book, but it's kind of spoiled the ending of the last book for me because this picks up right where it left off. But basically Roberta is a very crude lesbian. The book is full of some fantastic insults on her behalf. There's a lot of funny words being used. It's quite rude. There's a lot of swearing in it, but it's fantastic to read. But on the other side, it does have a lot of dark elements to it. There was a scene where Roberta walks into a house and there's a child like living in appalling conditions, and it was really hard to read that bit, especially seeing the reaction Roberta had, because she obviously has kids herself with her partner, and it was hard to read that section. But overall I loved the book. I loved the characters so much. and I really enjoyed it. So I would give that one a 4 out of 5 again. I loved most of the books I read this time, so you'll be hearing a lot of 4s. The next book that I read was 1984 by George Orwell. Now this one has been on my to-do read? What? This one has been on my to-read list probably for like about 10 years, I'm not even lying. I bought this about 5 years ago and it's been sitting on my bookcase at my parents' house for that long and I've never picked it up. So I decided I'm reading more, I'm gonna read it. So if you don't know, this book, it follows a character called Winston Smith, and basically he is living in a world that has a really oppressive like government, which is called the Party. So Winston is kind of trying to fight this. He wants to be his own individual, but it's really hard to do when all your calls are monitored, when there's screens around you that can listen in and to everything you're saying, and you're being watched like at all times. Big Brother is watching you in this book. So basically he wants to rebel against this, he wants to pursue his own relationship, and he actually writes a diary, which would be totally frowned upon. But it was just a really good read and I did really enjoy it. So again, another 4 out of 5 stars from me. So the next 2 books that I read were The Secret Circles. So this is the first one here, which has The Invitation and Captive, and this is Captive Part 2 and The Power. So I'm going to just speak about these 2 together because I don't want to give too much away about the stories, but basically it follows a girl called Cassie Blake, and she moves to the town of New Salem with her mum to go live with their grandmother. Her grandmother's getting old and the mum wants to kind of like, you know, make amends. They've had a big falling out. So Cassie moves there, and basically, well, if you haven't guessed by the name New Salem, it's a bit of a hint what she might possibly be. But basically she joins this group called The Circle, and there's a group of 11 other teenagers and they have to fight off evil together. And overall I enjoyed it. It was a fun story. There's a lot of like love, heartbreak, a lot of funny times in it. Is it the best written book ever? No, it's definitely not. If I read the word dizzy one more time, I probably would have screamed. Every character is described as dizzy at one point in the book, but I did really enjoy it overall, so I can't complain too much. It was a bit of fun, light-hearted reading that I needed, especially after the seriousness of the 1984 that I just read before it. So overall, I'd probably give it a 2.5 or 3, just for the writing of it, but I did enjoy it, so take what you want from that. These 2 books are actually for the Winter Biannual Bibliothon. That's a mouthful. One of the challenges was a book you hadn't heard of, so that's why I picked The Secret Circle in the first place. And one of the other challenges in the Winter Biannual Bibliothon was a sequel, so I thought while I had the 2 of them, it might be good to get the 2 challenges out of the way. The next book I read, this was also for the Winter Biannual Bibliothon, and that is Girl Interrupted. So this met the category of a book about a mental illness. So Girl Interrupted, that's by Susanna Kaysen. I totally just mind blanked on what her name was, even though I looked at it. Great. So that's by Susanna Kaysen. Girl Interrupted, it follows Susanna when she was about 18 years old. It's a memoir, so a true story, and it follows her around the time where she kind of volunteered or voluntarily went into a mental institution, oh my god, a psychiatric institution in Massachusetts. So after having like a brief 20-minute interview with a doctor, she ends up being in this mental institution for about 2 years, and it follows her life there and like some stories that she wants to share with us about her time in this institution. I really love the story, the different stories in it. I love that you got to see other characters and hear their stories. I just wish there was more. Like, a book is only, how many pages is it? 168 pages. Now that's not a lot of time to hear in-depth stories, so I know there's a film out and I am going to watch that because I did really enjoy it, but I've not got around to the film yet, but that'll be on my to-watch list maybe for February. So the next book I read is The Vampire Academy, and that is by Rachel Mead. This book follows 2 girls. There is Rose and there's Lisa, and Lisa so happens to be a princess. And basically 2 years ago they ran away from their high school, and now they are back and trying to kind of get back into it. There's a couple twists in there. I did enjoy it. Again, it's probably not the best written book, but I picked it up for the Winter Biannual Bibliothon because it is a book that was published before 2017. So it was a good book in terms of it was fun, it was lighthearted, but at the same time I did find a couple like plot holes, not even plot holes, but I found a couple bits quite hard to understand in the book. I found that like it would mention something, completely forget about it, and about 30 pages later actually explain what it is. So I started calling them, I think it's damp fears. I in my head was reading vampires, but it said that at the very start. It said like she's a damp fear and she's a this and that, and then it wasn't until like 100 pages later in the book it actually told you, oh, this is what this means, and it made it a lot easier. But the first 100 pages I was like, I have no idea what any of this means, I'm just gonna read it and hope for the best. Overall, I'd probably give it maybe a 2 out of 5. Not the best, not the worst. The final book I read was actually an ebook, and I read it on my phone when I was at work, or like on my lunch breaks when I was at work, and that is The 7 Ways We Lie. No, that's not what it's called at all. It is The 7 Lies We Tell, and I can't for the life of me remember the author, so I will put that in the screen somewhere, I'm very sorry. Basically, it follows 7 different characters who are going to a school, the same school as Paloma High School, and it follows these 7 characters. Basically, there's a big school scandal, there's like rumours of a teacher-student like relationship going on, and it follows these different characters as they kind of try to get through the rumours and through this big scandal. I picked this up as part of the diversity reading challenge. It's called Diversity Bingo. It was from 2017, but I picked it up for that reason because it's a main character who is pansexual, and so that's why I picked it up in the first place. But I really enjoyed it. I loved that you would see something in everyone's perspective. Basically, it was so interesting. Again, I wish there was more of it. I could read it again and again. Like, I just wish there was more. Like, I really loved the characters. I especially loved the 2 sisters because they've been through quite a hard time, and you see them slowly understand each other and understand where the other one's coming from. So it's such a fantastic like journey that you get to see these 2 sisters going on. Overall, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I did really enjoy this book. Well everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this video. That is all of the books that I read in January of 2018. Can you believe that January is already over and I've got to make this video? I can't believe it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a bit of a like, a big thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe, I would be very grateful. Leave me a comment, let me know which books you've read in 2018, how many you read, and just let me know everything. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye!